You are standing in line at the grocery store and you see it. The way that couple in front of you is not really talking. The way his hand rests on her shoulder, but there is no warmth in it, just performance. The way her smile does not reach her eyes when she turns to him. And suddenly you are not just seeing them, you are seeing the whole architecture of their relationship. The unspoken resentments, the compromises they have made, the slow death of something that once mattered, and nobody else notices. The cashier is scanning items. The person behind you is checking their phone. But you see it all. You always see it all. You walk into a room and you read it like a book. You know who is pretending, who is hiding, who is one comment away from breaking down. You hear what people are not saying. You notice the micro-expressions, the hesitations, the way someone's voice changes when they lie to themselves. And at first, maybe you thought this was a gift. Maybe you thought this clarity, this ability to see through the surface of things, was something special. But now it feels like a curse. Because once you see certain truths, you cannot unsee them. Once you understand how things really work, how people really are, how much of life is performance and pretense and desperate avoidance, you cannot go back to the comfortable ignorance that everyone else seems to live in. You watch people chase things you know will not make them happy. You watch them repeat patterns you can see from a mile away. You watch them construct elaborate lies about themselves, about their relationships, about their lives. And you know those lies will eventually collapse. And the exhausting part? You cannot tell them. You cannot wake them up. Because they do not want to see what you see. They are not ready. They might never be ready. So you carry this weight alone. This knowing, this seeing, this constant awareness of all the things that are broken, all the ways people are suffering without even realizing it, all the tragedy hiding behind every normal day. You feel like you are watching a play where everyone else thinks it is real life. And the isolation of that is crushing. Because how do you connect with people who do not see what you see? How do you have normal conversations when you are aware of all the subtext, all the hidden motivations, all the unconscious patterns playing out? How do you just relax and enjoy the surface when you can always see what is underneath? Here's the truth nobody tells you. There is a price for consciousness. There is a cost to seeing clearly, and that cost is the ability to live comfortably in illusion. Freud understood this better than almost anyone. He spent his entire career pulling back the veil, showing people what was really happening in their minds, in their relationships, in their lives. And what he discovered was not comforting. It was not pleasant. It was often terrifying, because the human psyche is not designed for total transparency. It is designed for survival, and sometimes survival requires not seeing certain things. Sometimes it requires turning away from truths that would be too painful to face. But what happens when you cannot turn away anymore? What happens when your mind has been trained, through pain or trauma, or just the particular way you are wired, to see everything? What happens when the defense mechanisms that protect most people from overwhelming reality just do not work for you anymore? That is what we are going to explore today. Why seeing too much can feel like it is destroying you. Why clarity sometimes feels like a punishment instead of a gift. And what Freud would say about how to live with eyes that cannot close, with a mind that cannot stop understanding, with an awareness that cuts through everything and leaves you feeling more alone than you ever imagined possible. This is not about learning to see less. That is not possible. Once you see, you see. This is about learning to hold what you see without it crushing you. This is about finding a way to stay connected to the world even when you can see all of its wounds. This is about surviving your own consciousness. The thing about seeing too much is that it starts innocently. Maybe you grew up in a household where reading emotions was survival, where you learned to scan your parents' face to know if it was safe to speak, safe to ask for something, safe to just exist. You became an expert at detecting danger before it fully arrived. You learned to notice the subtle shifts in tone, in body language, in the energy of a room. And that skill kept you safe. It protected you. But what happens when that skill does not turn off? What happens when you carry that same level of vigilance into every interaction, every relationship, every moment of your life? You start seeing things nobody else sees, not because you want to, not because you are trying to be critical or judgmental, but because your nervous system is wired to detect threat, to process information at a level that most people do not operate on. And at first, you think everyone sees what you see. You think everyone notices the inconsistencies, the contradictions, the gaps between what people say and what they mean. But then you realize they do not. They are not pretending to miss it. They genuinely do not see it. They can sit in a conversation and take everything at face value. They can watch someone perform and believe the performance. They can accept simple explanations and move on. And you cannot. You see the performance. You see the fear behind the confidence. You see the loneliness behind the smile. You see the desperation behind the achievement. You see people constructing versions of themselves that will be acceptable, lovable, successful. And you see how much they are leaving out, how much they are suppressing, how much they are denying, and it breaks your heart. Not because you judge them, but because you understand. You understand the cost of that performance because you have paid it yourself. You understand the exhaustion of maintaining an acceptable self while the real self suffocates underneath. Freud would tell you that what you are seeing is the gap between the ego and the unconscious. The ego is the part of us that interfaces with reality, that presents ourselves to the world, that tries to balance what we want with what is acceptable. But the unconscious? The unconscious holds everything the ego cannot afford to acknowledge. It holds the desires that are too dangerous, the feelings that are too painful, the truths that would threaten the carefully constructed identity we show to others. And most people live their entire lives without ever really confronting what is in their unconscious. They catch glimpses of it in dreams, in slips of the tongue, in moments when their defenses are down. But they do not look directly at it. They cannot. It would be too destabilizing. But you can see people's unconscious leaking through. You can see the shadow behind the persona. You can see what they are running from, what they are avoiding, what they are terrified to admit even to themselves. And that is too much information for one person to carry. Because you are not just seeing them, you are seeing the human condition. You are seeing how much suffering exists underneath the surface of normal life. You are seeing how desperately people are trying to avoid their own pain. And once you see that, once you really understand that, casual interaction becomes almost impossible. Because you cannot just talk about the weather when you can see someone's existential dread. You cannot just laugh at jokes when you can sense the anxiety underneath. You cannot participate in the collective pretense that everything is fine when you can see that almost nothing is fine. If you are understanding what I am describing right now, if this is landing somewhere deep inside you, show your support for this content with a like, not just for the algorithm, but as a signal to yourself that you are not crazy, that what you are experiencing is real, that seeing this much is hard and you are doing the best you can with it. Let me pause here for a moment because I need to ask you something that matters. Have you ever felt like you are living two lives at once? The one everyone sees, where you smile and function and pretend everything is fine, and the one inside your head, where you are struggling, confused, doubting every choice you make? That split, that exhausting performance of being okay when you are not, it is something Freud understood deeply. And I want you to know something. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are human. And what you are feeling right now, this exact struggle you are carrying, someone else watching this video is feeling it too. They are sitting there thinking they are the only one, just like you might be thinking right now. So I am going to ask you to do something that might feel vulnerable, but it is important. Go down to the comments right now and type this exact phrase, I feel this. Just those 3 words, I feel this. You do not need to explain. You do not need to write your whole story. Just let those words be your voice today, because when you do that, something powerful happens. The person scrolling through these comments, the one who feels completely alone in their pain, they are going to see your comment. And for the first time in maybe days, weeks, or months, they are going to realize they are not alone either. Your 3 words might be the thing that helps them breathe a little easier tonight. This is not just about engagement. This is about connection. This is about breaking the silence that keeps us isolated in our suffering. Freud built his entire life's work on one simple truth. We heal when we speak what has been hidden. So speak it now. Go to the comments. Type I feel this. And know that by doing so, you are not just helping yourself. You are helping every single person who needs to know that what they feel is real, is valid, and is shared. Do it now. I will wait. So why does seeing too much feel like it is destroying you? Because consciousness without integration is just pain. Freud talked about the process of making the unconscious conscious. That was his whole project. Bringing hidden material into awareness so it could be understood, processed, integrated. But here is what most people miss. That process is not supposed to happen all at once. It is supposed to be gradual, controlled, mediated by a therapeutic relationship where someone can help you hold what you are discovering. But when you see too much too fast, when your awareness outpaces your capacity to integrate what you are seeing, you end up with information you do not know how to process. You see the truth about your parents' relationship, and you do not have anywhere to put that knowledge. You see the dysfunction in your family system, and you cannot unsee it, but you also cannot fix it. You understand the ways you have been shaped by trauma, and suddenly your whole sense of self feels unstable. You see through the stories you told yourself about your life, and you do not know who you are without those stories. This is what Freud would call flooding, when the unconscious material breaks through faster than the ego can handle it. And when that happens, when you are suddenly aware of too much reality without the defenses to buffer it, you can feel like you are falling apart, like you are losing your mind, like you would give anything to go back to not knowing. But you cannot go back. That is the terrible mercy of awareness. Once the veil is lifted, it does not drop back down. Once you see how the magic trick works, you cannot be fooled by it again. Once you understand the mechanisms of denial and repression and projection, you see them everywhere, in yourself, in others, in entire social systems. And that is isolating, because the default mode of human interaction is based on a shared agreement to not look too closely at certain things, to not ask certain questions, to not challenge certain stories. And when you cannot participate in that agreement anymore, when you keep seeing what everyone else is trying not to see, you become the uncomfortable presence in every room. You become the person who makes people feel seen in ways they do not want to be seen. You become the mirror that reflects back what people are trying to avoid. And people do not like that. They do not like being reminded of what they are repressing. They do not like having their defenses challenged. They do not like feeling transparent. So they pull away. They tell you that you think too much, that you are too intense, that you are too negative, that you should just relax and stop analyzing everything. And maybe they are right. Maybe you do think too much, but you do not know how to stop. Your mind does not have an off switch. You cannot choose to be less aware. You cannot decide to stop noticing. You cannot turn down the volume on your own consciousness. Here is where it gets even harder. When you see too much, you also see your own patterns with excruciating clarity. You watch yourself repeat behaviors you know are destructive. You see yourself falling into the same traps. You notice your defense mechanisms activating in real time. You catch yourself rationalizing, avoiding, projecting, and you see it happening, but you feel powerless to stop it. This is what Freud called the compulsion to repeat. Even when we are conscious of our patterns, even when we understand where they come from, we still find ourselves acting them out. Why? Because knowing something intellectually is not the same as changing it emotionally. Because the unconscious does not care about logic. It operates on emotion, on association, on the deep grooves carved by early experience. So you end up in this maddening situation where you can see exactly what you are doing wrong, but you cannot seem to do it differently. You can analyze yourself perfectly. You can understand your behavior completely, but you still end up in the same relationships that hurt you. You still react the same way when you feel threatened. You still fall into the same depressive spirals or anxious loops or self-destructive patterns. And the awareness of that, the seeing yourself do the thing you swore you would not do again, that can feel worse than just being unconscious. At least when you do not know what you are doing, you have the excuse of ignorance. But when you know, when you see yourself clearly and still cannot change, that feels like failure. That feels like proof that you are fundamentally broken. But Freud would say something different. He would say that awareness is the first step, not the final one. He would say that you are in the middle of a process, not at the end of it. He would say that the fact that you can see your patterns means the work is already happening, even if the change has not caught up yet, because the psyche does not transform on command. It transforms slowly through repetition, through patience, through the gradual weakening of old neural pathways and the strengthening of new ones. You are not failing. You are integrating. And integration takes time. It takes more time than you want it to take. But it is happening. There is another dimension to seeing too much that we need to address. It is the moral weight of it. When you can see suffering that others miss, when you can see injustice that others rationalize away, when you can see the ways systems and structures and relationships cause harm, you feel responsible. You feel like you should do something. You feel like your awareness creates an obligation. And maybe it does. But what do you do with that obligation when you are just one person? What do you do when you can see all the ways the world is broken, but you do not have the power to fix it? You see people being exploited and you cannot stop it. You see relationships destroying people and you cannot intervene. You see children being shaped by dysfunction and you cannot protect them. You see all this suffering and your awareness does not come with a manual for what to do about it. So you carry it. You carry the knowledge of all that pain, and it eats at you. Because ignorance would be easier. Not seeing would be so much easier. If you could just focus on your own life, your own problems, your own little bubble of experience, you might be okay. But you cannot. Your awareness has expanded beyond your own life and now you feel everything. You feel the collective weight of human suffering, and that is too much for one nervous system to hold. Freud understood this. He talked about the burden of civilization, the cost of being a conscious being in a world full of unconscious forces. He knew that awareness brings a kind of suffering that ignorance never experiences, and he did not have easy answers for it. He did not say that seeing clearly would make you happy. He said it might make you free. But freedom and happiness are not the same thing. Sometimes freedom just means you are awake to the cage. And being awake to the cage while still being in it, that is its own kind of torture. You already know this, but we're not ready to understand ourselves alone. The human mind is vast, complex, and often frightening to explore without guidance. If this content is helping you see yourself more clearly, if these insights about Freud's work are bringing light to parts of yourself you've kept hidden, then consider subscribing to this channel. This is not just another psychology channel. This is a space where we explore the depths of human nature together, where we take the most profound concepts from psychoanalysis and make them accessible, practical, and deeply personal. Every video here is designed to help you understand not just theory, but yourself. Your patterns, your fears, your desires, the invisible forces that have been shaping your choices without your awareness. When you subscribe, you are making a commitment to yourself. You are saying that you are ready to look deeper, to understand more, to stop running from the truth of who you are. And I promise you this, I will be here every week, bringing you insights that matter, explanations that actually make sense, and perspectives that can genuinely change how you see yourself and the world around you. This journey of self-understanding is not easy. Freud knew this. He spent his entire life mapping the human psyche precisely because he understood how lost we can feel inside our own minds. But you do not have to walk this path alone. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Become part of a community of people who have decided that understanding themselves is worth the discomfort, worth the effort, worth the time. Because at the end of the day, the most important relationship you will ever have is the one with yourself. And that relationship deserves your attention, your curiosity, and your courage. So subscribe now and let's continue this exploration together. Your future self will thank you for taking this step today. So what do? How do you live with this level of awareness without it destroying you? Freud would start by saying you need to accept that you cannot unsee what you have seen. There is no going back to innocence. There is no return to the comfortable fog that most people live in. That door is closed, but there might be another door. There might be a way to hold your awareness without it holding you hostage. And it starts with this. Stop trying to be normal. Stop trying to connect with people the way you think you are supposed to. Stop forcing yourself into interactions that feel hollow, because you can see too much of what is really happening. That is not working. That is making you feel more isolated, not less. Instead, find the others. Find the people who see what you see. Find the ones who also feel like they are watching a play while everyone else thinks it is real life. Find the ones who cannot do small talk because they are too aware of the big questions. Those people exist. They are rare, but they exist. And when you find them, when you connect with someone who operates at the same level of awareness you do, something shifts. You realize that you are not crazy. You are not broken. You are just awake in a world that prefers sleep. And there is deep, deep relief in being seen by someone who sees the way you see, in being understood by someone who understands the weight you carry, in being able to speak freely without having to translate your thoughts into language that will not make people uncomfortable. That is the first survival strategy. Find your people. Build relationships with those who can meet you at your depth. And stop trying to force connection with people who are not ready for that level of honesty. The second thing Freud would tell you is to develop what he called sublimation. Sublimation is the process of taking psychological energy, particularly energy that comes from difficult or unacceptable feelings, and channeling it into something constructive. You see too much? Turn that seeing into art, into writing, into teaching, into some form of expression that allows you to process what you are observing and share it in a way that might help others. Because here is the thing, your awareness is not just a burden, it is also a resource. It is information that other people need but cannot access on their own. When you can articulate what you see, when you can put words to the patterns that most people only feel as vague discomfort, you become a translator. You become a bridge between the unconscious and the conscious. You help other people see themselves more clearly. And that is valuable. That is meaningful. That is a way to transform your curse into something that serves not just you, but everyone who encounters your work. This is not about toxic positivity. This is not about pretending that seeing too much does not hurt. It does hurt. It hurts constantly. But if you can find a way to channel that hurt into something that creates meaning, that helps others, that contributes to the collective understanding of what it means to be human, then the pain has a purpose. It stops being just suffering and becomes something more complex, something that contains suffering but also transcendence, something that acknowledges the darkness but also reaches toward light. The third thing, and this is crucial, is to practice what Freud would call healthy repression. Now that sounds contradictory. Freud spent his whole career talking about how repression causes problems, but he also understood that total transparency is not sustainable, that some degree of filtering, some ability to not process every single thing you see, is necessary for functioning. You cannot walk around with your nervous system completely exposed to all stimuli all the time. You will break. So you need to develop the capacity to choose what you engage with and what you let pass by. Not denial, not pretending you do not see, but discernment. The ability to say, I see that, I acknowledge that, and right now I am choosing not to engage with it because I do not have the capacity. This is not weakness. This is self-preservation. This is recognizing that your awareness is a finite resource and you need to protect it. You need to create boundaries around what you allow into your conscious processing. Because if you try to hold everything, you will hold nothing. You will just be overwhelmed. But if you can learn to focus your awareness, to direct it intentionally rather than letting it scatter across every stimulus, you can maintain your clarity without it consuming you. This takes practice. It takes developing a relationship with your own mind where you are the one in control, not your awareness controlling you. It takes learning to say, I see you, I know you are there, and I will come back to you when I have the resources. Not now, later. And finally, Freud would tell you to get into therapy. Not because you are broken, but because you need someone who can help you carry what you see. Someone who is trained to hold space for the kind of awareness you have. Someone who will not be threatened by your clarity or try to talk you out of what you are perceiving. You need a witness. Someone who can say, yes, you are seeing accurately. Yes, that is real. Yes, that is hard. And who can then help you find ways to live with what you see without it destroying your capacity to function. Because that is the real challenge. Not seeing less, but learning to hold what you see without it crushing you. And that work? That work requires support. It requires relationship. It requires someone who can reflect back to you that you are not alone in this. That what you are experiencing makes sense. That there is a way through, not a way out. There is no way out of consciousness, but a way through. A way to integrate your awareness into a life that is still worth living. Here is what I need you to understand as we close. Seeing too much is not a flaw. It is not evidence that something is wrong with you. It is evidence that you have been pushed, by circumstance or temperament or trauma, into a level of consciousness that most people never reach. And yes, that comes with a cost. It comes with isolation and exhaustion, and the constant weight of knowing things you wish you did not know. But it also comes with depth. It comes with the ability to understand human nature in ways that are rare and valuable. It comes with the capacity to see truth even when truth is uncomfortable. And the world needs that. The world needs people who cannot be fooled by easy answers, who cannot be pacified by comfortable lies, who keep seeing, keep questioning, keep pulling back the veil even when everyone else wants to look away. You are doing important work just by staying conscious, just by refusing to numb yourself into oblivion, just by continuing to look even when looking hurts. And I know that does not make it easier. I know you would still choose ignorance if you could, but you cannot. So instead, you find a way to live with your eyes open. You find people who see what you see. You find ways to channel what you observe into something that matters. You find support to help you carry the weight, and you keep going. Not because it is easy, but because you do not have another choice. Because once you have seen, you cannot unsee. And there is a strange kind of integrity in that. A refusal to betray your own awareness even when that awareness brings pain. So let me ask you this. What would it look like to stop fighting your clarity? What would it look like to accept that you see what you see, and that is not going to change? What would it look like to build a life that honors your awareness instead of trying to suppress it? What would it look like to find your people, create your work, seek your support, and stop apologizing for the depth of your perception? Sit with that. Let that question work on you. Because maybe the problem is not that you see too much. Maybe the problem is that you are still trying to live as if you do not, and that is the real source of your suffering. Not the seeing itself, but the constant effort to pretend you do not see what you clearly see. What if you stop pretending? What if you let yourself be exactly as aware as you are? What if you built a life around that awareness instead of in spite of it? That might not look like other people's lives. It might not be comfortable or normal or easy, but it might be true. And truth, even painful truth, has its own kind of peace. Share this video with someone who sees too much, someone who feels alone in their awareness, someone who needs to know that clarity is not a curse, just a different way of being human. A harder way, but not a wrong way. Thank you for being here. Thank you for staying conscious. Thank you for refusing to look away, even when everyone else does. The world needs your eyes, even when it hurts to keep them open.